Hey everyone, and welcome to This Explainer. Today we're diving into something that is, frankly, going to completely fundamentally change how human society handles emergencies. We're talking about taking the absolute chaos and delay of our current 911 systems and replacing them with a predictable, high-speed architecture. We are literally moving from a system of unpredictable hope to one of absolute, engineered certainty.
Okay, to start off, I want you to just imagine a completely different reality for a second. Think about the most terrifying moment of a person's life. A heart attack, a severe allergic reaction, maybe a violent car crash. Now, what if you didn't have to wait in agonizing panic for 15 or 20 minutes? What if the absolute maximum time you had to wait for life-saving help was just 30 seconds?
Right now, our status quo is, well, it's pretty broken. Standard EMS response times take anywhere from 7 to 14 minutes. And if you're in a rural area, that can stretch up to 25 minutes. Every passing minute drastically reduces the chance of survival. But, driven by what's called predictable compute, the emergency stability stack guarantees a response in 30 to 90 seconds. This isn't just a minor improvement, it's a complete architectural rewrite of exactly how we save lives.
Here is our roadmap for today. We're going to cover 1. The unstable substrate. 2. Why current drones fail. 3. The emergency stability stack. 4. Transforming the golden minutes. And finally, 5. A civilization scale upgrade.
All right, let's kick things off with Section 1, the unstable substrate. The human cost of our current system is staggering. 240,000. That is how many Americans die every single year simply because emergency response is too slow. And look, our system isn't failing because first responders aren't working hard enough. It fails because it relies on roads that get congested, vehicles that take time to dispatch, and dispatch centers that get completely overloaded. Beyond the devastating human loss, this systemic delay costs the healthcare system billions in prolonged intensive care that could have been totally prevented with faster intervention. It's just a fundamentally unstable infrastructure.
And that overloaded system deeply fails the most vulnerable among us. Consider the overdose epidemic. There are over 100,000 fatal overdoses per year in the U.S. alone. In these cases, a victim often goes into respiratory arrest within just 4 to 6 minutes. But because the system takes 7 to 14 minutes to arrive, the intervention is simply too late. The cure exists, guys, but the delivery mechanism is fundamentally broken.
So that brings us to Section 2, why current drones fail.
Now you might be thinking, well, just send a drone. But throwing conventional consumer drones at an emergency simply doesn't work. They suffer from GPS drift and react totally unpredictably to a sudden gust of wind. They have incredibly poor indoor navigation, and the moment you try to coordinate a dozen of them in a high-stress scenario, their compute systems literally overload and crash. In a life-or-death emergency, unpredictable systems kill. We don't need a faster toy, we need a completely new technological paradigm.
Which leads us to the real solution. Section 3, the emergency stability stack. Let's walk through the 4 foundational tech primitives that actually make this work. First, predictable compute ensures zero drift and zero chaos. The machines act instantly without hesitation. Second, the drone control primitive allows for this almost alien-like maneuverability and precise indoor navigation so drones can actually fly into buildings and down hallways. Third is deterministic scaling, which we'll look at closer in a second. And fourth is fractal coverage geometry, which essentially distributes drone stations in a perfect overlapping honeycomb pattern so there are absolutely zero dead zones across an entire city.
The real game changer here is this concept of deterministic scaling. Imagine a massive multi-car pileup or a huge natural disaster. Current systems would be immediately overwhelmed, right? But with this stability stack, you can deploy 10, 100, or even 1,000 drones simultaneously. There is no runaway feedback loop, there is no coordination collapse. The swarm operates with perfect, unflinching stability, even under absolute peak emergency loads.
All right, let's see this in action. Section 4, transforming the golden minutes.
Let's look at cardiac arrest. Right now, every single minute that ticks by, survival drops by about 10%. Today, waiting 7 to 14 minutes for EMS results in a dismal 8 to 12% survival rate. But, and this is huge, by delivering an automated external defibrillator deterministically in 60 to 90 seconds, that survival rate skyrockets to between 50 and 70%. To put that into perspective, we are talking about tens of thousands of lives saved annually by just altering the geometry of response.
And remember that overdose epidemic we talked about earlier? This technology takes it head on. Instead of EMS arriving tragically late after respiratory arrest, the stability stack calculates a 45 to 90-second flight path. The drone navigates indoors directly to the victim to drop naloxone right into the hands of a bystander with real-time audio instructions. This single application could drop overdose deaths by up to 70% in major cities.
But it's not just medical drop-offs. Think about a house fire. A blaze literally doubles in size every 30 to 60 seconds, yet firefighters currently arrive completely blind. With this tech, a drone arrives in 45 seconds to provide full thermal and structural mapping before the fire trucks even park. For traffic accidents, where traditional EMS is naturally delayed by the very traffic the accident causes, a drone is on scene in 30 seconds for hazard triage. First responders arrive full prepared, which entirely changes the dynamic of the rescue.
And when we're talking about search and rescue, the contrast is honestly mind-blowing. Today, it can take hours to assemble and deploy teams into dangerous, hard-to-reach environments. By instantly deploying a deterministic swarm equipped with thermal and LiDAR mapping, an entire area is scanned and mapped in under 2 minutes. You are reducing the critical search time by 80 to 90%.
That 80 to 90% drop pops up again when we look at severe allergic reactions. Anaphylaxis can kill in 3 to 5 minutes. Over 1,500 Americans die from this annually because they simply didn't have their epinephrine auto-injector on hand. By instantly dropping epinephrine indoors, right into a school classroom or stadium seating, within 90 seconds, we see an 80 to 90% drop in these easily preventable deaths.
Zooming out now to Section 5, a civilization-scale upgrade.
So to kind of pull this all together, this new stability-first fabric completely bypasses the fragile infrastructure of the 20th century. It offers instant response and global coverage with zero-drift coordination. It is entirely immune to road traffic, totally independent of human availability limits, and stands to save municipalities billions in emergency and healthcare costs. It's an entirely new layer of civilizational infrastructure.
And there's a really profound psychological and sociological ripple effect to all of this too. Emergency response is deeply tied to the architecture of peace in a society. When a system is completely predictable and reliable, underlying fear decreases, trust in institutions dramatically increases, agencies coordinate seamlessly, and the chaotic incentives that drive conflict actually begin to collapse. Reliable rescue builds peace.
The source material actually puts it perfectly. This is not a drone upgrade, this is a civilization upgrade. We aren't just looking at a slightly faster consumer gadget here. We are looking at a profound structural evolution for human society, systematically engineering away the tragedy of delay.
So I want to leave you with a thought to ponder. What happens when your city runs on a stability-first network? Imagine your own community, your own neighborhood, transformed into a place where life-saving help is never, ever more than 30 seconds away. How does that change how you live, how you feel, and how society functions? Think about it. Thanks for joining me for this explainer, and I'll see you next time as we continue to break down the ideas shaping our future.